Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining this morning's webinar. This is a webinar sponsored by Huawei on WLAN solutions. We have a really great session planned for you guys this morning and two excellent speakers. Before we get started, I'd like to just mention a couple of things. First of all, we welcome your questions and we want to be able to address those. And so on your GoToWebinar panel, there's a Q&A area, and we ask you to ask your questions in that Q&A area and keep those questions coming throughout the webinar. We'll answer those in real time, and then we'll also have a Q&A session at the end where we'll answer a bunch of questions as well. In addition, we've come up with a number of polling questions, and so we're going to submit some polls during the webinar, and we want you to respond to those as well. And so that will just be an opportunity for you to weigh in on your thoughts regarding some of the issues that we're addressing here on this webinar. Finally, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll make this available on the Huawei website. So if you want to pass this webinar on to friends and colleagues, you'll be able to do that as well. This morning we have two excellent speakers. The first is going to be AJ Gupta, who is Director of Product Marketing within Huawei, specializing in the WLAN solutions. And then we're going to bring on one of the principal engineers at Huawei, a gentleman by the name of Osama Abdulmagd. And Osama is actually involved with helping to find some of the standards within the WLAN industry. And so what we want to do is mix in some real engineering technical talent into some of these webinars so you can hear about some of the things that are going on in those areas. So two very exciting speakers, two of the most knowledgeable guys regarding the WLAN space within Huawei. So fantastic. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and transfer it over to AJ. AJ, take it away.
Thank you, Nick. Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to Huawei WLAN Solution webinar. We do appreciate taking time out of your busy schedule. In this webinar, we're going to cover some of the Huawei WLAN solution, their unique value proposition, what the differentiators are, and how Huawei is really leading the industry curve when it comes to standards actually. So here is how the agenda looks like here. You can see here we're going to talk a little bit about Huawei, state of the WLAN markets, what are the different challenges when it comes to wireless LAN, give you a preview of the wireless solution from Huawei and how they differentiate themselves from the rest of the market, talk about the wireless standards. As you know, we have come a long way in the last 10-15 years from the standard A all the way today to N and AC. And then finally end the seminar with executive summary. That's going to be followed by Q&A. Here comes our first polling question. Nick, take it away.
Thanks, AJ. I'm going to go ahead and try to launch this. There's been a bit of an issue with the polling mechanism here, so let me see if I can launch that, and if not, we'll just go ahead and go past this. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it wants to launch. So we'll go ahead and skip the polling question, and you can just proceed ahead, AJ. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Nick. So here, let's talk a little bit about the Huawei. As you know, Huawei is a global company. It's the leading ICT player in the market today. We are extremely customer-centric, innovation-oriented, and very strong partnerships. We have established end-to-end capabilities across our portfolio, across carrier network, enterprise, and consumers actually. Here you can see here, Huawei has been actually present in over 140 countries, serving almost 1/3 of the world's population, like almost 2 billion people in some shape or form uses Huawei's product. By leveraging our strong R&D capabilities and comprehensive technical expertise, Huawei really focuses on the different domains and a close partnership and integration with the partners to really deliver a wide range of highly efficient customer-centric solution. In general, what I really like to say about Huawei really adheres to the so-called 4 S's actually. You must be familiar with the 4 P's in marketing. Similarly, in sales, we have what we say 4 S's for Huawei, which stands for simple, scalable, smart, and savings actually when it comes to describing the Huawei strategy. Our portfolio covers enterprise networking, unified communication and collaboration, the so-called UC&C, cloud computing, data center, enterprise wireless, etc., etc. We have a very strong belief in working and cooperating with our partners. We really think it's going to enable us to complement each other and really a win-win situation when it comes to Huawei and our partners. So as you can see here in the next slide, that kind of shows you the revenues for Huawei. At the end of last year, we were in the range of almost $35.4 billion. Our net profit was somewhere in the range of around $2 billion, actually just over $2 billion. Huawei today serves almost 45 of the world's top 50 telecom providers. Almost employs, you can say here, 150,000 employees, with almost 70% of them dedicated in R&D, really showing our dedication to innovation actually. Huawei is a top contributor to industry standards, and we're going to talk about it in the subsequent slides. Here a little bit about the Huawei USA here. Huawei USA was established sometime in 2001 in Plano, Texas. Our R&D facility in Santa Clara was opened in 2011. We have a key regional offices throughout U.S. in major cities such as Boston, New York, LA, etc. One thing to note here is Huawei granted OEM contracts which were worth over $6 billion to U.S.-based technology companies. Our enterprise business was actually formally launched in October of 2011 at Introp, New York. As I said, Huawei has a complete portfolio of when it comes to post-sales, pre-sales, professional services, technical services, different learning and certification courses. Let's talk quickly about the state of the WLAN markets here. This was the survey that was done by Gartner in the fourth quarter of last year. The survey actually spanned over almost, I would say, 2,000 plus CIOs that were responsible for almost $230 billion in IT budgets across 36 countries, 36 industries in 41 countries. The main thing that came out of this survey, IT budgets are declining. That means the CIOs are trying to do more with less. The thing that stands out here is the priority given by our CIOs to mobile technology. As you can see here, mobile technologies have been moving up the rank in the last few years, and it's been pretty much number 3rd or number 2 as of last year. That really shows how much CIOs are prioritizing the mobile and the WLAN network. And even though the budgets are declining, there is money for the WLAN products, as this is what they think is going to really help them do more with less. Here, now that we know the priority of the WLAN, here is kind of give you a kind of an idea of the sizing of the total addressable market from a worldwide basis. This report and the numbers came from Gartner. As you can see here, at the end of last year, the overall WLAN market, which includes the AC controllers, the AP, the access products, and the Wi-Fi phone, was somewhere in the range of just under $4 billion. By end of 2016, we expect this market to be over $6 billion, growing at a compound rate of almost 20% year over year. Most of the access products, almost say 88% of the access points that are shipping are complying to the .11n technology. The key thing here is $1 investment in the WLAN market helps to earn $4 in profit. We do believe that WLAN really brings that push and pull to some of the switches and router sales as well. And some of the data that we collected from our sales gives us a ratio of 1:5. That means selling $1 in WLAN helps you sell almost $5 when it comes to switching and routing. Let's go to some of the challenges in the WLAN market here. I think the number one challenge, without doubt, is basically security. Enterprise wireless LANs have expanded rapidly over the last few years, moving from, say, a hotspot in conference rooms now to a pervasive enterprise-wide deployment. And the number one thing that really determines their growth and really has been some sort of a blocker in the past is the security. And when I'm talking security, I'm talking things like DHCP spoofing, or cache poisoning, man-in-the-middle attack. So the wireless networks and the wireless standards have to really make sure the enterprises, when they deploy the WLAN, that security is taken into consideration. The next challenge really comes what we like to call it efficiency, which really refers to the performance and the reliability of the WLAN. We want to make sure when the wireless LAN points are deployed in stadiums, in hospitals, there is enough coverage and bandwidth for every user. The third challenge that really comes up is what we call the consistency, or a consistent experience. Today, BYOD has becoming much more popular as a result of the wireless LAN and mobile technology. We want to make sure when the users are coming from their mobile phones, their smartphones, their netbooks, their tablets, their notebooks, their laptops, they all get the same kind of experience no matter what operating system, what device, what terminal they're logging from. This consistency of user experience anytime, anywhere is extremely critical to the growth of the wireless LAN. And finally, I would say the last challenge from a business point of view, obviously, is TCO. We want to make sure when employees are, when the CIOs are actually deploying these networks, as they add more and more devices to their wireless networks, the TCOs and the ROI is within their budgets actually. So you are hoping to look for that low TCO from the wireless LAN networks. Here is what Huawei Solutions brings to the table here. We basically call our wireless 3 foundation pillars for our wireless LAN solution: efficiency, security, and experience. Using these 3 pillars and 3 foundations, we really make sure that the customer and our employees can access the network access and service transmission anytime, anywhere. We have actually features for unified authentication and management for both our wired and wireless users. And finally, we bring that secure wireless that has been some sort of a showstopper in the past. Great. Here comes our second polling question. Nick?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're just going to have to skip over it. There's some problem with the polling mechanism, but it's a good thought anyway.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Now we're gonna talk about some of the wireless LAN solution from Huawei. Here it shows you the investment that Huawei has made in the last 13 years actually. Huawei has issued over 100 patents from a wireless LAN point of view over the time. The wireless LAN product from Huawei, and especially we are now leading the industry when it comes to standards, especially in the .AC arena. When we launched the wireless LAN product in 2004, Huawei had a market share of almost 50% in China. From 2004 all the way to 2012, we showed our first prototype of our 802.11 AC products last year, and this year we are in the process of shipping those .AC compatible WLAN products to the market. Here shows you the complete portfolio of our access points and access controllers. We have different access points catered to the indoor, to the outdoor, to the indoor distributed deployments. We have access points to cater to the SOHO, medium, and large size enterprises. Basically, some of these access points are classified based on the size as premium, enhanced, and standard. We have our access controller 6605. One thing to mention here is we not only have a separate access points like 6605, but we also have an integrated access points into our campus leading switches like 9700 and 7700. The major key points the whole family, WLAN family, brings to the table is more bandwidth, which is almost 20% higher than the industry. We have almost 80% broader coverage when you look at the competition. As I talked about the TCO before, we have done the TCO calculation, and Huawei WLAN product can save you almost 60%, which is pretty remarkable in today's world, and obviously the leading vendor in the standards and in the next generation of the WLAN products. Here I show you some of the features and how we do save that money and how we get the better coverage and more bandwidth here. There are several nifty, neat features that come with the WLAN family. For example, the first one is automatic packet-by-packet power control, which really helps you reducing the interferences to other APs and devices. We can, based on the interference, we can also restrict users with low rate, or we can even force them offline. As you know, Huawei has a priority scheduling. Huawei WLAN solution has a priority scheduling on a 5 gigahertz. A lot of other devices, they use 2.4 gigahertz, like your microwave, your Bluetooth, your Zigbee, etc., etc. So we give a priority access to our 5 gigahertz network, which again reduces interferences coming from those devices. We have something what we call a smart antenna technology.
We're still recording this, so it's...
We have something called what we call smart antenna technology. Compared to the traditional antenna, our smart antenna really are very targeted towards the user. It's like making a special beam in that specific direction. So doing some of these neat features along with the professional planning tools, we can really bring you that coverage of almost 80%, requiring you to use less than 20% fewer APs when you look from an industry point of view. The thing to note here from a Huawei solution point of view, Huawei has been leading the mobile market for a long time in carriers. For example, Huawei is the #1 in the mobile packet core and LTE, and we are leveraging the same technology when it comes to Huawei WLAN solutions. Here is kind of give you an idea of how the coverage looks like with the Huawei solution versus the rest of the solution. As you can see here on the left, it's a coverage without any coverage holes, while on the right hand side you can see the coverage from the other access points where they leave a coverage gap in between. That is extremely important when you're doing that mission critical application over wireless LAN. you want to make sure that the wireless LAN product that you have deployed in your enterprise gives you a complete coverage rather than leaving the holes as shown on the right-hand side. Here are some of the features that WLAN family brings to the table here. The first one is a seamless roaming and non-stop services. Here you can see here, as our users move from one VLAN to another VLAN, or within the same VLAN, or within the same subnet, or from one subnet to another subnet, it's absolutely, there's no interruption in services. If we are authenticated already over 802.1x, actually, you would not need to re-authenticate again. Extremely important to improve the employee satisfaction here. Here we show some of our zero touch or zero configuration, which is for our mesh network here. As you know, in the mesh there are multiple access points that connect to so-called master node, and the master node is connected to the access controller. In the Huawei's mesh network, when you add a new mesh node, that does not need to be configured basically. The new mesh node automatically accesses the mesh network and gets its configuration and downloads its configuration, basically achieving a plug and play from a deployment perspective. Again, a great advantage when it comes to the time of deployment and time of upgrading those access points. Here are some of the integrated security solutions. As I said earlier, security is probably the #1 challenge when it comes to WLAN. There are several kinds of security attacks that we need to mitigate. And things, for example, give you an example here. For example, an employee brings a wireless router and plugs it into an unsecured port in the network. Now the whole network is actually exposed to anyone within the range of the signals here. So you need to really make sure that you really take care of things like identity theft, things like MAC spoofing, things like man-in-the-middle attacks, things like denial of service attacks, the DDoS attacks, when an attacker continuously bombards a targeted access point. So some of those, in order to combat some of those challenges, Huawei has got a couple of solutions as listed on this slide. The first one, the spectrum analysis. We can really identify the source of the interference and make the optimization and changes accordingly. We can identify the terminal type. Extremely important, especially in the BYOD world. We can identify which operating system, which device you're coming from. Are you coming from an Apple iOS or are you coming from an Android? Based on the operating system, based on the terminal type, we can enforce the policies accordingly. We can do rogue device detection. We can actually blacklist a MAC address. All the traffic from that device goes to dev null. And we have something very similar to that some of the vendors like Air Defense is doing, things like wireless intrusion detection and wireless intrusion prevention. We can have an encrypted tunnel from the device all the way to the network using what we call a cap web tunnel, and using basically a real-time encryption in the tunnel. Here is another neat feature from the Huawei WLAN product, basically role-based access control. We can classify the user as a guest or a visitor or put it into a different user groups actually. So when a visitor comes to the network and logs comes into the enterprise and logs into the network, he only gets a visitor privileges. We can make a security policy check from a NAC point of view, from a network access point of view. What kind of antiviruses is running on the device? What kind of patches has he downloaded? Is he up to the speed in terms of the latest vulnerabilities or not? What kind of IAMs he's using, whether we're going to allow it or not. So the whole idea is the system can really configure policies automatically based on the role and the type of the user. Here we have a third polling question, but I believe there are some little bit of technical difficulties. So I'm going to move on to the next slide here, which basically tells you a little bit about the design and the installation for a WLAN product. As you can see here, the Huawei WLAN products are very user-friendly. You can see some of those mechanical mountings here. In fact, we claim that the Huawei access point can be installed by one person in less than 15 minutes, while the competition might need at least 2 people and need 30 to 45 minutes. It's not only that we are talking about it. In fact, the Huawei's access points have actually won the very popular IF Design Award from Germany that really says Huawei access points are the best and most user-friendly when it comes to the market and the industry. Second feature that I think really stands out for the outdoor access point, how do you deal with the harsh realities and the harsh environment of the dust, water, power surges, AC supply, etc. Huawei's WLAN product comply to what we call IP67 standard actually. That means they are built for the rugged environment. And you can see the competition here. Most of the surge protectors, as well as being the waterproof and dustproof protection, is all built in the Huawei's access points actually. While in the competition, either it's not available or you might have to pay an extra money to get those features in the access points and the WLAN family. I cannot underemphasize or overemphasize, I should say, the importance and the criticality of the different planning and design tools. Extremely, extremely critical. Huawei WLAN family comes with a set of tools, things like WLAN tester, things like planning tools, things like probe handset, PHU, etc. And what these guys do is basically helps you simulate the whole WLAN network before you can deploy it. It helps you calculate how many number of access points you would need, what kind of connectivity you need to your switches and routers actually, what kind of bandwidth. It will help you do the real-time monitoring using some of our eSite, the network management system for our WLAN. So these different planning tools makes your network more predictable, helps you get a better TCO, reducing the cost, and they are built on the experience from the Huawei's mobile family coming from the carrier network. And again, at this point, we engaged with the TOLI, the third party for certification for Huawei access points. TOLI really came out according to the results that Huawei access point like AP6010 had almost 16% weighted throughput and efficiency compared to its competitors in multi-user high-density access scenarios. Our access point 7110 was almost 20 to 40% better and more efficient in terms of our throughput. All of these results are actually posted on our website as well as on tolly.com/WLAN. I would strongly encourage you to go to that website and see the results yourselves to see how efficient and better throughput and coverage are coming from the Huawei's WLAN family. This is one of the case study that I wanted to really mention. It's done from an independent school district in US and Texas actually. They were again struggling with the growing network loads, the number of students and the number of faculty were increasing. They didn't have enough budgets what to do. They really wanted a WLAN network that gives them the investment protection that can grow as the traffic and the load on the network grows in the future. And that's where they came to Huawei and deployed Huawei 6010 network, access points network, giving them 600 megabits of throughput for the students and the teachers in the network. As I said earlier, Huawei is really leading the curve when it comes to standards actually. We have folks who are leading the 802.11 standards, and we are very fortunate to have with us Osama, who is the chairperson of 802.11 AC. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Osama to continue with some of the latest advances and what's going on and how Huawei is really leading the curve.
Okay, thanks, Ajay. Over the next few slides, actually, I'm going to present a very brief overview of standards related to Wi-Fi and 802.11. So basically, as from this slide, actually, there are mainly two organizations that work on Wi-Fi standards. The first one is the IEEE 802.11. And this organization is responsible for the PHY and MAC enhancements and technology evolution. And that's how actually we get 802.11b, 11a, 11g, and so on. And the latest published standard actually is 802.11 2012. It's published, I think, June 2012 last year. And this actually like an evolved process because every time a new publication emerges, it includes amendments that passed between two publications. The second organization is the Wi-Fi Alliance, and this is actually more of a marketing organization, and its main focus is on interoperability certification, so making sure that products from different vendors can interoperate together. Wi-Fi Alliance also actually do their own protocols, and usually at the MAC level actually. They do not usually touch the PHY part of the wireless LAN. And one example actually is Wi-Fi Direct, which you may have heard of it, which allows two devices to communicate together. In the next slide, I'm going to give a brief overview of the evolution of 802.11 technology. So the first actually 802.11 standard was published in 1997. Perhaps the first usable amendment was 11B, which is published in 1999 and supports data rate from 1 megabits per second up to 11 megabits per second. Shortly after 11E actually came along, it operated on 5 gigahertz and incorporate OFDM technology. Of course, 11B operates in 2.4 gigahertz. 11G came a little bit later. It operates in the 2.4 gigahertz. It incorporates OFDM technology as well, which is a multi-carrier modulation system, and fully backward compatible with 11B. So if you have an 11B adapter, it can actually operate with 11G access point, for example. The next big thing actually in .11, I'm still working on the evolution actually. In .11 evolution is 11N, and 11N operates in both bands, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. It has it's based on OFDM physical layer, but it included actually multi-input, multi-output transmission system, which is called MIMO, and basically it's for a single user. 11N also showed the first time where the channel bandwidth was actually able to be increased from 20 megahertz to 40 megahertz. After 11N conclusion, two amendments started almost at the same time, 11AD and 11AC. 11AD operates in the 60 gigahertz band, and it's suitable for short-range communication, which require very high speed, and I believe it can support up to 7+ gigabits per second if all optional features are implemented. 11AC is more of an evolution to 11N, so it operates only in the 5 gigahertz band. It's based on OFDM PHY layer. It includes MIMO support, but unlike 11N, it includes actually also multi-user MIMO. 11N introduced MIMO for single user, so transmission from a number of antennas can go to a single device. In multi-user MIMO, transmission from a number of antennas can go to multiple devices, so the access point can actually transmit to multiple devices or multiple stations at the same time. And multi-user MIMO support in 11AC is only in the downward in the downlink direction, so from the AP to stations. The status of 11AC right now is it's very close to completeness. It's in sponsor ballot right now, and it is expected to be published sometime in the first quarter of next year. The specification itself has been stable for some time actually now, and there are actually 11AC chips already in the market, which like first generation chips supporting three special streams and up to 1.3 gigabits per second. With the conclusion of, or the near conclusion of 11AC, people start looking at what comes next. And the 802.11 working group has started a new study group called High Efficiency Wireless LAN. Basically, look at areas where the efficient use of wireless LAN can be achieved, and looking at problems with current wireless LAN deployments and how we can overcome them. In addition to that, actually we'll look at ways of increasing the bandwidth as well, and better ways of handling interference. The Hue study group actually started, its first meeting was May 2013, that's 2 months ago, and has its second meeting last week during the 802.11 meeting. In the next slide, actually, I'm going to provide some of the details on 11AC, very high-level details. So basically, as I mentioned, it's an evolution of 11N. It supports up to 8 antennas and 8 spatial streams. That's unlike 11N, where it can support only up to 4x4 antennas. It also supports wider bandwidth. So 40 megahertz actually was supported by 11N. In addition to that, 40 megahertz and 80 megahertz are supported in 11AC as mandatory features, and 160 megahertz is supported as an optional feature. Of course, every time you double the bandwidth, you actually double the rate. So as you go from 40 to 80 to 160, that includes 2 times the rate and 4 times rate increase. It also includes something called static and dynamic bandwidth operation, which doesn't exist in previous amendments. Basically, this feature is simple. If someone is asking, for example, to use or trying to use 80 megahertz and the whole 80 megahertz channels is not available, then basically he can downgrade his transmission to 40 or 20 megahertz based on the availability of the channels, and this is what is meant by dynamic bandwidth operation. It supports higher modulation and coding schemes, which basically is QAM 512. And if all the optional features and you are able to build a device with 8 antennas and all optional feature and 160 megahertz channel widths, if all these options are implemented, it can actually support data rates up to 6.9 gigabits per second. As I mentioned, actually the first generation of chips are already available. They support 3 antennas and up to 3 spatial streams, and the bandwidth, the data rate supported is at 1.3 gigabits per second at 80 megahertz channel width. The next slide is just a brief overview of what's happening in the Wi-Fi Alliance related to 802.11ac. As I mentioned in the beginning of my part, I mentioned Wi-Fi Alliance basically focus on certification of products from different vendors. So a study group actually has a task group, a Wi-Fi Alliance task group has started in 2010 in order to work on marketing aspects of 11ac, like what are the features required first in the first generation, and these kind of discussions. And the VHT 5G technical test group started in 2011 in order to work on the test plan. And the VHT 5G technical test group concluded its work earlier this year, and the test plan actually document was concluded sometime around April of this year. And basically a number of what's called the block fests were conducted in order to prepare the test bed. And finally, actually, the Wi-Fi Alliance launched the Wi-Fi certified AC last month, which basically means that anyone with 11ac device can go and certify the product against the test bed, the Wi-Fi Alliance test bed. So as you see, actually standards are very close to complete. It's a matter of time, and it's really on sort of an automatic pilot actually to be completed, and the Wi-Fi certification is already available. So 11ac actually, as you see, is becoming a reality. And the next slide, Huawei, of course, is in the middle of all these activities, and Huawei participate in both the IEEE 802.11 and the Wi-Fi Alliance. As Asia mentioned, Huawei holds the chairman for 802.11ac, as well as the newly formed study group, High Efficiency Wireless LAN. Huawei is on the Wi-Fi Alliance board of directors, and it holds a number of vice chair positions in Wi-Fi Alliance, including actually VHT 5G, which I think AJ hinted to in his presentation. And that actually completes my part, and back to you, AJ.
Thank you so much. Now we're just going to conclude with the executive summary for the Huawei WLAN products. The key takeaways that we would like you to take from this webinar is basically few things. Number one, the leading price performance of any vendor when it comes to WLAN. A better coverage, more bandwidth. You have the third-party reports that are available to prove it. Our user-friendly engineering design, reducing the time for deployment, really helping you to bring that low TCO that the CIOs are looking from the suppliers. Our exclusive local forwarding, which really we send the traffic from the APs all the way directly to the switching, as opposed to going every packet going through access controller. our professional tools, our network planning, everything really helps in really cutting down that deployment. Our built-in surge protectors, our compliance with IP67 actually, so that outdoor APs can be deployed in the industrial and the energy industries that are looking for that kind of protection. So in summary, I really strongly encourage you to look at the wireless WLAN family and how it can really bring the benefits. Huawei is a leading supplier of the enterprise products. We are leading the industry when it comes to the future of WLAN. We have folks like Osama who are on the IEEE, who are the chairperson of those standards. All of those things come together in the Huawei WLAN family. So for more information, for becoming a partner and growing your business with Huawei, please contact Stuart at the phone number, and there is an email listed here on this slide. Thank you very much, and I'm going to hand it over back to Nick.
AJ, thank you so much, and Osama as well. By the way, one of the tools that AJ was mentioning is a tool that runs on a tablet computer or some kind of mobile device and shows you the heat map of where the current coverage is regarding WLAN coverage, where the holes might be, and if you're in a new environment, where you should put the access points. So that's a tool you should all take a look at. It's really amazing, and it just shows the ability to really make it easy for a customer or for a partner to go out and deploy these things and figure out where to put the access points and understand where the coverage holes are in an existing environment. We do have some questions that came up, so let's go ahead and address those. The first question has to do with training, and it actually is kind of a two-part question. The first part says, how can partners get trained and certified on Huawei products, and then what about end users and customers? So I'll go ahead and take that myself. The first thing is that Huawei actually has two different kinds of training that's targeted at the partner community, the VARs. One is a Huawei certified sales professional, and this would be more of a sales guy who wants to understand how to identify opportunities, how to sell the solutions, what kinds of markets Huawei plays in, what kinds of product portfolio they have. So it's more of a salesperson. The second training that's focused on the VAR or partner community is called the Huawei Certified Sales Engineer. And that's more for the SE. It's more of a technical training, and it will give you the ability to whiteboard and architect solutions and understand how to talk the technical side of the solutions as well. Now, as I mentioned, both of those are for partners, more for sales and SEs to be able to sell the products. In addition, Huawei has full 5-day courses that are used either by services teams within a partner or by the customer who's actually going to deploy these solutions. And these 5-day training courses are really in-depth sessions to learn how to deploy these solutions, how to get them installed and configured, and how to have them run optimally. So a much more detailed course, the second one I talked about, and these are the ones that you actually use if you're selling professional services or if you're in an end customer environment, you're going to actually deploy the solutions. For more information about training, you can still contact Stuart at the number above, or you can also go to the website, which is HuaweiEnterpriseUSA.com, where you can always call our 800 number, which is 855-GO-HUAWEI, and that's 855-464-8293. So if you have any questions, you can go to that website, or you can go to the phone number, as I mentioned as well. Here's a question for AJ. Now, I know you covered a little bit of this, but there was an ask for a little bit of clarification about just talking. I know Osama mentioned a bunch of different standards and how the whole standards have evolved, but the question is, what are the benefits specifically of 802.11 AC technology?
Thank you, Nick. I think Osama just mentioned. So I'm just going to briefly mention a few things and give it to Osama. The number one thing is obviously the performance, and I think the number mentioned was somewhere in the range of like 6-point-something gigabits. So .AC technology really brings you into the gigabit era, actually. That means your high-definition movie, really those gaming things, the fast home networking becomes a reality, actually. The second thing I think is it works on a 5 gigahertz spectrum, which means much quieter. But I will hand it over to Osama really to emphasize some of the things that he stated earlier on the .11 AC technology.
Yeah, thanks, AJ. Actually, I agree with you. the most important benefit is the increased rate. It goes actually like 10 times higher than what 11N can provide. So that's the one important aspect of 11AC. Yeah, I think that's actually the main benefit of 11AC. The other thing actually is that 11AC is an evolution of 11N. So if you are familiar with 11N deployment and its configuration and I mean the technology itself, you can actually learn 11AC quickly because it's an evolution. There is no big jump or some revolutionary mechanism that been added to 11AC. I also should add actually that 11AC, while as an 11AC, it operates in 5 gigahertz mode. It's still actually most devices will be likely dual band devices, so in operate in 5 gigahertz and in 2.4 gigahertz as well. And an 11AC device in 2.4 gigahertz behaves exactly as if it is an 11N device. I think this is a very important point to highlight as well.
Excellent, excellent. Good answers, guys. We're almost out of time. I think we have time for just 2 more questions. One of them, I think, AJ, this would be for you. The question is, does Huawei have an MDM client for BYOD?
Oh, absolutely. The Huawei does have an NDM client, and it is actually developed internally within Huawei. Huawei's MDM client is known by the name AnyOffice. So it basically combines the application browser, some of the applications built into the MDM, as well as helps you take your terminals, your devices, your smartphones all the way from the time you acquire to the time you retire. So the complete life cycle is built into the so-called AnyOffice client from Huawei.
Excellent, excellent. And I think this will have to be the last one just based on time. And this is a question probably for AJ as well. And it is, how does Huawei stack up against the various competitors in the Gartner Magic Quadrant or just other analyst overviews of the WLAN space?
Great question, Nick, actually. So Huawei has been doing pretty well. If you look at Huawei in the enterprise business, it's been just 2 years old. And last year in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, Huawei was positioned in the Challenger Quadrant. So given that it's just within 2 years, Huawei had made its mark into the Challenger Quadrant, and we're hoping to move pretty much towards the right top in the upcoming years for the Huawei's enterprise and WLAN products in particular.
Excellent. Outstanding. Okay, super. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up now. As I mentioned, this session is being recorded, and so we'll make that available on the Huawei website, and that's something that you can all listen to. 2 weeks from today, we're going to have another session. This time it's going to be on data center solutions. So everybody will look forward to that, and we'll be sending out emails about that starting next week. So again, thank you very much to AJ and Osama. Great job, guys. Fantastic overview of the Huawei WLAN solutions. And we look forward to seeing everybody on an upcoming webinar.